Welcome to the She Births podcast, a place for conversations to help you create a beautiful birth and grow gently through the powerful time of motherhood, or as we call it now, matrescence. We are not just birthing our babies, remember, but also ourselves. I am Nadine Richardson, your host and creator of the world's first scientifically verified childbirth education program, She Births. I have been a yoga teacher, doula, and birth educator for over 20 years, and I started to create She Births after my own wild and wonderful birth experience. Today, I am proud to say that She Births has helped tens of thousands of families around the world, and we are published in the British Medical Journal. Our programs have a unique, holistic toolkit, mindset skills, and philosophy that all work together so that you can have the most natural, gentle, and joyous birth possible and make birth beautiful no matter what unfolds. I will be talking with fellow experts around the world so that you can feel empowered and critically be engaged in decision making. There are lots of birth stories from mums just like you, sharing their challenges and joys. We will be hearing from mums and celebrating the extraordinary growth that happens during motherhood, that unraveling rite of passage that leads us to finding a new self on the other side. Our world-class birth courses can be learnt either face-to-face or online inside our free app. Just jump onto the She Births website, shebirths.com, and take a look. We have lots of freebies for you if you feel like learning more. We have a doula matching service, the perfect way to ensure you and your partner are supported, our matrescence program, and our 14-year-strong Soul Mama Circles, the perfect initiation and support into motherhood and sisterhood. Our vision at She Births is to make birth beautiful for every family around the world. So if you like what you hear today, please help us to keep this podcast going by subscribing, reviewing, and sharing with a friend. I hope you enjoy this special episode. Hello and welcome to Season 10, Episode 1 of the She Births podcast. Today I talk with women's health physiotherapist and continence specialist Anna Scammell from The Whole Mother. She is also a She Births mum, of course, to gorgeous little Cleo. I have named this episode Pelvic Floor, Taboos and Truths, how you can take ownership of your pelvic health. There are so many myths and there is so much fear-mongering about childbirth and pelvic floors out there that we really need to address. And it's a nuanced conversation and it's an in-depth conversation that needs to happen. We can't just give PDFs of stats to women. It doesn't make sense to a lot of us. Now, there are many things that we can do to take care of this very sacred and extremely important part of the body, if we know how. Anna and I cover a lot of ground in a very short amount of time, and honestly, I felt like a women's health physio after the interview. This is a really great podcast to share with your friends, no matter what age or stage they are at, because pelvic health matters at every age in a woman's life. And it will change across your lifetime as well, as I share personally too. Knowing how a women's health physio works, as we discuss in this episode, could be the key to helping somebody make an appointment or detect an issue that's arising, potentially going to get worse, will allow them to feel free of embarrassment and maybe even pain. So please share this podcast with all the women that you know, because at least 50% of us will experience pelvic organ prolapse after giving birth or later in our lifetime. At She Births, we've always recommended that every woman work with a women's health physio because it's so important to get that individualized care, the assessments and the support. And I believe women's health physios is something that really should be compulsory and actually paid for by our government, as it is in France. So today, Anna and I talk about the most common issues that arise and, of course, really unpack POP, it's often called, the pelvic organ prolapses, our fears, the preventions, the solutions, and we discuss how you can prepare your pelvic floor for childbirth, the most important things you need to know for better recovery, the different types of prolapse and how they typically present in postpartum women, the preventative measures you can take to reduce pelvic floor issues, effective rehab techniques for women experiencing dysfunction, how mode of delivery, vaginal versus C-section, impacts our health, tears versus episiotomy, painful sex, and the emotional aspect of returning to sex after birth. We also discuss diastasis and what you can do postpartum to repair abdominal separation and what a truly holistic approach looks like, how critical that is, and how we can engage our partner's help in our postpartum recovery. See what I mean? So much stuff is talked about. So please share with a friend. Please review or subscribe to our podcast. It really helps us to deliver more podcasts to all of you. You can find Anna Scammell and her online pregnancy and postpartum programs that I've also contributed to at the website thewholemother.com and her Instagram, the.whole.mother. Enjoy this episode. Anna, welcome to the She Births Show podcast, finally.
Thank you for having me.
It's so cool. You've had your little baby, Cleo's 7 months. It was great to have you and your partner in She Births and to have known you for many years anyway around Bondi and been recommending your women's health physio practice. At-home visits especially loved by many, many women. And so it's really cool. I always wanted to do a podcast with you, and I think it's more relevant now that you've had your baby and you're on the other side and your pelvic floor has survived, and now you can tell us all the ways that we can copy you and look after ourselves. Does that sound good?
Yeah, sounds great. Yeah, finally, after all these years of being a physio, I was able to experience it for myself, treating all these pregnant women and new mums. And, there was a part of me that obviously, your knowledge and experience is pivotal, but to now have gone through it myself, it really does, first of all, feel incredibly special, but also, it just really humbles you, and it just makes, I guess, management and treatment of clients moving forwards, you really do understand, you just get it now. It's just it's a pretty amazing / challenging time for a lot of us, but it's it feels really quite special to have gone through it now.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, it is a different experience. I always wanted to start prenatal yoga teaching after I had a child and waited till that moment as well. So then it was coming from a sort of embodied place and an empathic place as well, for sure. So in an ideal world, and I say this at every She Births course and in the online program, every woman would have a women's health physiotherapist, and they would start throughout their pregnancy or even prior to pregnancy having consultations, getting baselines and understanding their resting tones. I'm going to start using some buzzwords, but you can come in and explain them all. What's your ideal scenario for women?
Yeah, so good that you obviously recommend women's health physios, and it is just so key throughout the childbearing years. But so if we start in pregnancy, having your first assessment with women's health physio in the second trimester, and ideally early on, so once you've sort of had that clearance at the 13-week mark. And that's super important to have an internal examination. So we won't be doing an internal assessment throughout the first trimester. And with that internal assessment, we can establish what your pelvic floor strength is, what your endurance is, the tone of the muscles. So if there's any tightness or muscle tension in the muscles, we can see if the muscles are completely relaxing. We can look at how many repetitions you can do, the motor control of your muscles. So there's a lot that we gather from that assessment, and how your pushing technique as well. So if we start with that, that baseline, it's so helpful to give the woman the feedback. Okay, this is what we need to work on to achieve optimal pelvic health and function throughout your pregnancy, to then obviously facilitate your birth and your recovery. So we are ideally aiming for a strong pelvic floor, but one that relaxes completely, obviously to be able to, relax and stretch in birth. So there are those, two pivotal components throughout the pregnancy that we are focusing on. Some will need to focus on one more than the other. So, for example, with me, my strength was really good and I needed to focus more on relaxation and fully really, letting the pelvic floor muscles go. So that's what you can establish with an internal examination.
Yeah.
And we then go on to, set the woman up with, exercise programs. So it may be, obviously there'll be, a strengthening component if that's what she needs to focus on, and also making sure she's relaxing completely. But within that relaxation side of things, we might be going through some internal release, because there may be some trigger points in the muscle. The muscles do act like, any other muscles, like our glutes or, our upper traps, and to get, trigger points in them, that can happen. I think a lot of women don't realize that. So we can
just a forewarning. Just a forewarning on that one. Paddle pop sticks and fingers up your vulva, is what we're talking about. And
yes,
I was the same as you. Like, I have a women's health physio up here in Byron. I've got extraordinary strength and that's always been there for many years, but I wasn't relaxing. And even when I go to exercise classes, teachers are so intense, the ones I go to, I have to consciously remind myself to make sure I get that full inhale and I allow a full relaxation before the next Pilates exercise, or before the next weight lift or something like that. And it just makes a total difference. And then I've also had that trigger release. And I think it's really important to understand that, like, the pelvic floor, its tension can impact the sacrum and the glutes and pain in other parts of the body. Anyway, it's so intense.
Correct.
The right side trigger release for me was just like, whoa, Nelly, but felt fantastic afterwards.
Oh, it's absolutely, full on. And it can contribute to a lot of different pelvic floor, dysfunction, and, as well as, heading into endometriosis and, that down that pathway. So it's, incredibly intricate, can affect a whole lot of different things, and also can impact birth. So we really want to be optimizing, as I say, the health and function of those muscles in pregnancy, so that the internal release may not be appropriate for someone. So it's not necessarily for everybody, but it's just important to know, I guess, how you can help yourself heading into birth and then help your recovery afterwards. So we tend to see clients, obviously, depending on what's going on for them, will depend on how frequent we see them, but essentially working on that pelvic floor relaxation will head into birth preparation closer to that sort of 35-week mark, when we'll teach how to do perineal massage. Massage makes it sound like it's sort of maybe something that's quite nice, but it's not particularly. It's I sort of tend to call it more like perineal stretching, because it is really stretching, and it can be quite intense. But that's really pivotal for preparing your pelvic floor and perineum for birth, to help trying to prevent tearing. So and allowing that muscle to really relax and stretch. So there is a lot we do other than just strengthening the pelvic floor, and I think that's sort of a misconception. So yes, we want your pelvic floor to be strong, but we also are going to help facilitate that complete relaxation, and making sure that you head into birth with a healthy pelvic floor, and that, I guess, the management and kind of around that will really, I mean, and I say this to my clients, it makes such a difference then after birth as well. If you haven't been working, a muscle as well, and then you expect the muscle just to recover like instantly and pick up to where it was beforehand. If you haven't been actually working it, then there's not that baseline either. So the pelvic floor, I guess, exercises and strength work that we do as well is really essential for that recovery, to allow those muscles to have that muscle memory to go, okay, yes, I've just been through this huge stretch up to 3 times the length, and now it's time to obviously recover, rehabilitate, and to have that muscle memory there can really facilitate. So I think that's super important to know as well. It's not just about preparing you for birth. It's about preparing you to recover and really optimizing that
going
recovery
forward. Absolutely, because then you come to my age in perimenopause, and your pelvic floor changes dramatically again. And so you really want to understand it. And I'm a big believer in connecting to this part of the body and breathing into it and allowing energy to move through it. Not just so it's an energetic place. It's the seat of consciousness, really, in yoga and neuroscience, sort of showing there's such strong brain vagina connections. So it's a really important part of our body, not just for sitting on, but we have to connect with it and understand it and do our best to take care of it as well. And I mean,
absolutely.
Are you a fan of collagen in our diets? And do we even go into amino acids or like creatine? Is that like a thing for pelvic floor repair? Because I've seen some vegans not have good recovery in their pelvic floor. And I think potentially I've heard of one mum moving on to eating meat and taking collagen supplements to help in that recovery. Would that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And, from a global muscle perspective as well, I'm a huge advocate for collagen. So I think that it can absolutely impact our muscles and our pelvic floor as well. So I do believe that, eating, and for those, I guess, don't know, it's very much from the, connective tissue from meat. And so, meats on the bone and slow cooked, and bone broth as a base for stews and casseroles and things like that. Incredibly nourishing for the musculoskeletal system for sure. I'm a huge advocate, and there's powders as well that you can add to your smoothies and things like that as well. So yeah, definitely. And I think it just, it's that whole holistic approach, isn't it, to your recovery and your health, and that's, what I'm just so grateful for is that I had the knowledge. Obviously, I, impart that knowledge onto my clients, but I had all that knowledge of, right, this is what I need to do, postpartum or in pregnancy, and then postpartum to set myself up to have, the best recovery possible. And, things like that, nutrition all plays a part, as well as obviously physically what you need to do.
Yeah, absolutely. So once people have gone through their pregnancy, they've had their baseline, they've got exercises, they understand perineal stretching, not massage, makes total sense. They've given birth either vaginally or via cesarean. When should they come back to their women's health physio?
Yeah, so ideally 6 weeks is when we like to see them. It's really important to know that even 6 weeks is so early in the piece. But we do like to reassess because that's also when you can start to do a little bit more, obviously, in terms of healing and everything. So when I say more, more activity and more exercise. So it's really, really good to have another internal assessment and check where things are at from a strength point of view and a tone point of view, and as well as checking for prolapse, which I know we're going to go into. So assessing for that, and it's also if there's been a scar, so if there's been a tear or an episiotomy, we also assess that and teach how to do scar tissue massage, which is really, really key in helping that scar to heal. And then obviously allowing that, I guess, facilitating that repair and that rehabilitation of that muscle to then, be able to hopefully get back to, intercourse without pain is our goal. Yeah. So starting off, even though, having sex can be the last thing on your mind.
No, I was going to bring it up because even dads ask, like, when can we have sex? And I'm like,
yes,
please, someone slap him.
Yep.
But anyway. And now for a quick break. At She Births, we believe that pregnancy, birth, and matrescence, the sacred postpartum, is an awesome rite of passage. Our free holistic pregnancy guide offers you 6 months of weekly support. Drop straight into your inbox or within our free She Births app, you can get content that will nourish your body, mind, and soul. You can enjoy prenatal yoga videos, great recipes, birth affirmations, course discounts, and more. From me and my team, the creator of the world's only scientifically verified antenatal classes, it is our gift to you. Sign up today and receive the free holistic pregnancy guide at shebirths.com/PG. That's shebirths.com/PG. But let's talk about that. Painful sex. You've said it's also really common.
Yeah, it is, absolutely. So obviously it depends what the causing factor is, but a lot of the time it is, from scar tissue. But it can also be from reduced estrogen. So after we've had a baby, obviously the estrogen levels plummet, and that really does affect our I guess our entire body, but our pelvic floor as well. So the vagina can be drier, and that can actually, lead to pain as well with sex. So the other thing that I want to mention here as well is that after cesarean, some women can sort of have this muscle, reaction to pain, to the recovery of the scar and the incision, I should say. And so there's sort of this muscle guarding effect that happens, and the pelvic floor can then guard, and that can then obviously become tighter or tense. And then they may have some pain with sex. So it's not just post-vaginal birth as well. That's really important, to know. And quite often, I have clients who are sort of like, I didn't have my baby, out obviously of my vagina, my pelvic floor. So how is that possible? But explaining that muscle guarding, and also there can be, as you will know, that connection obviously with that psychological connection with the pelvic floor as well. So if there, was any trauma or even just, anything that didn't go to plan or whatever it might be, that can be that muscle reaction to, and that muscle guarding, and then that can lead to tightness and tension, and that can lead to pain. It's like if you had obviously trigger points in your, upper traps because you've been, really stressed, and those muscles get, tighter and tighter. If someone then pushed on that area, it's going to hurt. So if we kind of, if you sort of think of it in that way, same thing with sex. So yeah, it's really important to, I guess, be having this assessment as well at 6 weeks to try and be on the front foot and preventative with what kind of issues can crop up later. So, for example, that painful intercourse or prolapse, even if it's not an issue and the woman is, asymptomatic and doesn't have a prolapse at 6 weeks, we want to prevent that from happening down the track. So having the talk around and being educated around pelvic floor health and how to best look after yourself moving forwards. And as you're talking about, then, women obviously go through another dramatic hormone shift with regards to perimenopause, and that's another risk factor, for developing prolapse as well. So we as women really want to be on that front foot for the rest of our life. It's not just, okay, you've had your baby and then, we can park that to the side. It's something we want to have, to be at the forefront of our mind sort of always.
We have to. I think she births is like a preventative health intervention, and seeing a physio when you're pregnant is a preventative health intervention.
Yeah.
So it's fantastic that these new clinics have started popping up around Australia and UK, the pelvic floor rehab centres. And I'm like, well, wouldn't it be fantastic if we were like looking after all the people in the antenatal clinic first?
Correct.
And giving them 6-week consultations. And unfortunately, it is going to be up to the people who know and who have the resources to do that, because way too many women are suffering with pain, with prolapse, with incontinence. And prevention is the best cure. So maybe we should, did we finish enough around, so with tearing or episiotomy, we're all going to assess that scar tissue and help the mum understand what she can do to make sure that it's not painful, that it's properly that it heals better.
Yeah, and desensitizing it as well is probably the word moving forward. So that's, we go through exactly how to do that. And then, I talk through how to actually get back into, having sex. So it's, there's a process to it. You need to be obviously building intimacy, and you need to be obviously having that emotional, connection first, and then regaining confidence back in often, your body and your partner to have that connection. So, first time that, I guess there's that intimacy there. It doesn't have to be, intercourse. It can just be, touch and massage, or, tickling, or, some, things like that, to just start to, build so that confidence and intimacy back up with your partner, and then progressing from there. So, there is a lot that we sort of dive into around that, because it can be quite, a scary sort of thing to have obviously given birth out of, what was purely a sexual part of your body, has then obviously given, if you've had a vaginal birth, but even if you haven't, it's still a cesarean, that's major surgery, and that's all in obviously that pelvic region. So it's all, it really can change. Yeah, it can really change your mindset around, the pelvis and what its sort of role was, and now what you've been through and how that can sort of, manifest psychologically as well. So, there's a lot that we sort of dive into, but, being, again, preventative around that is super important. And then, if there are women listening to this and months, years, whatever it is down the track following having their babies, and they are experiencing, pain, or any issue for that matter, it is never too late to seek help. And that's something that I'm really passionate about, because I often get, messages and comments from, on Instagram from women saying, I've dealt with this for 3 years, or I've had this for, however long, and is it too late? Have I left it too late? And, the answer is no. So always just making sure that, you do seek help, because there's just so much we can do for pelvic floor dysfunction.
I love that so much. And I love that you bring in that emotional aspect as well, and that re-entry, as a new person into the bedroom again. I think it's really beautiful to hear all of that. And I'm sure incredibly helpful as well. So maybe we should jump into prolapse. And I don't want to mention the statistics around prolapse without proper explanation, because I think they can sound a bit scary and a bit daunting. So could you maybe give us like an overview of the stats and like what grade 1, grade 2, all that kind of stuff? Give us a little lesson on that, please.
Sure. So prolapse, like definition, is the descent of a pelvic organ, so the bladder, bowel, or uterus into the vaginal canal of varying degrees. So there is stage 1 to 4. So stage 1 is sort of when it comes down sort of halfway down the vagina canal. Stage 2 is to the opening, and stage 3 is past the opening of the vagina, and then stage 4 is the entire actual organ is outside of the body, which is, it is, as you say, insanely scary, daunting thought. But I will just say that stage 3 and 4 are not common, so don't want women to be worrying about that. We see a lot more stage 1 and 2, and they can be treated, managed with a lot of the time with conservative management. So that's where the evidence, as well as I see clinically, is that shows that the conservative management, so women's health physio and the strategies that we go through can really help to either improve the symptoms. So you obviously become asymptomatic and you don't feel the prolapse. The prolapse may still be there to some degree, but you don't feel it, which obviously is really, that's the key. That's what we're after. We're after you feeling good in yourself and not having symptoms. That's our goal. But also the rehabilitation can also improve the actual position of the anatomy and of the organ. So by strengthening the pelvic floor and improving the tone of the pelvic floor, we can improve the position of that organ. So what's is scary is that 50% of women can have a prolapse after childbirth. And whilst that is a very high statistic, we as women's health physios do our best, as we were saying before, to be preventative. And I guess what I just want to stress about having a prolapse is that it's very consuming. In terms of, I've just explained the symptoms. The symptoms are sort of a vaginal heaviness, like a dragging sensation, it can feel like your insides sort of are going to fall out. It's so uncomfortable for women. It can feel like a tampon's lodged awkwardly. It can also present as sort of a lump or bulge when you wipe yourself, or it can also be related to back pain as well. So what's important, I guess, as I said there, is that it can be really consuming. So it's all you can think about, because it can be there all the time. It can come and go. It just in terms of the symptoms. So it can be really distressing for women. And I think it's really important to be very kind of upfront in this, and to say that I 100% I get that, and that that real mental, it can really affect your mental kind of health and mental state. But there is a lot of hope. there is so much hope around it, because this is, what we specialize in. And yes, it can absolutely take time to overcome, but it is possible, and there is a lot that we can do. So I just think it's really important just to, sort of distressing as it can be, and be impacting obviously your life, if there's any women who are experiencing it, to not lose hope around that, and to make sure that they have a team of professionals to support them, to have that best, I guess, chance at rehabilitation. With it being such a high statistic, obviously there are risk factors to it, so they're important to understand. So risk factors are obviously a vaginal birth, but within a vaginal birth is having a larger baby over 4 kilos, a longer pushing stage, and instrumental delivery, and also chronic constipation is a big one, chronic coughing, chronic lifting, chronic heavy lifting, menopause, and it also obesity. So we need to know that there are some factors there that we can't control, but there are also factors that we can try and I guess, again, going back to the birth preparation things, how we can best prepare ourselves for birth, so that we can help to minimize our risk, and then what strategies we can do in terms of pelvic floor exercises and recovering and rehabilitation after birth, and how that can help to prevent prolapse, but also if there's something going on there, rehabilitate. So I would say one of the most common, I say mistakes that I see women, I guess, make is early postpartum getting back into whether it's activity or exercise too quickly. And that means that, their body has been through so much, and it's simply not ready to obviously do in the pelvic floor, simply not ready to be going for, extremely long walks, or, doing 100 squats. Or,
I mean, geez. I think that's the thing, you learn in that preventative kind of consult in your pregnancy. Like you learn, like when someone's the physio's doing like that digital exam on you, and you do a squat, or you lean against the wall and you bend your knees, or whatever. I can't remember what they did, but something along those lines. You're like, oh, prolapse changed. So slightly, like things move around and pressure is greater. You start to understand the impact of your body movements on the pelvic floor again. So hopefully postpartum, we don't sort of buy into this buyback culture. But I really appreciate you sharing what it feels like, that heavy feeling in the vagina, or the tampon kind of lodged, or a slight bulge, or even back pain. Like I think that's just a really important thing for women. And women might notice it more when they have been for a walk, or where they are really tired, or if they, have got their cycle back and the weight of the uterus is there, depending on that. Our periods can create even more sort of emphasis on that prolapse. So it's like, it's just a really important thing to know about our internals and how it all connects and wires up and what it feels like.
Yeah, yes, that's right.
And now for a quick break. Contrary to popular culture, She Births believes that childbirth can be the best day of your life. It is designed perfectly to be empowering, enriching, and bonding. An awesome rite of passage. Our childbirth education programs have helped thousands of families around the world since 2008, allowing families to not only feel empowered through education, but also connect with their innate birthing wisdom to create the best birth possible and begin their parenting journey with confidence. She Birth's unique methodology was scrutinised in university trials and has been published in the British Medical Journal for improving birth outcomes for both mother and child. I'd like to invite you to begin preparing for birth today. Just go to shebirths.com to discover our 2-day weekend face-to-face courses, or access the online courses from anywhere around the world. That's shebirths.com. Create your beautiful birth with the world's only scientifically verified antenatal classes.
So 50% of Australian women will experience a prolapse after birth. And what percentage is grade 1 or 2 out of that?
I don't know the statistics off the top of my head, but it would, like, majority, for sure.
Over 9 or something. I should have had it. I thought it was something really high.
Yeah.
I'll Google it.
It would have to, I haven't, I think in my, career, I've possibly seen two stage 3s, I think. And they were in older women. So, not childbearing. So, yeah, I would say that it's definitely very, very, very high. And that's where we can obviously do the most with our conservative, management. And so I think it's really important to, I guess, understand that the body is, I think a lot of women think I get to 6 weeks postpartum and I can, I can get back into running, or I can get back into, whatever I want. And some doctors, even, I have clients come to me and say, my doctor said that I can get back into what I want. Look, medically, from a, blood pressure point of view and a, maybe, but from a pelvic floor point of view, and often abdominal point of view with abdominal separation as well, that's not the case. And so having that assessment at that 6-week point with a women's health physio, and really building on pelvic floor strength again, which often, like, it can be obviously impacted from birth. So rebuilding is really key, and also working on the external pelvic muscles and your core as well is super important to rehabilitating the pelvic floor and obviously your body as well. So it's not just a matter of doing your pelvic floor exercises, but again, looking at the global, muscles around the pelvis, and obviously, more intrinsic muscles as well. But really bringing it together as a kind of rehabilitation of your body is really important, and being guided, I guess, by your symptoms. But that's where, we obviously step in to kind of go, okay, where are you at? What does cause symptoms, and what does, and how can we tailor, I guess, an approach to management to try and reduce essentially pressure through that pelvic floor, and give it the best chance of healing. And again, circling back to that early postpartum is a lot of, and this is what I was so I just made sure that this is 100% what I'm going to do, because obviously of my education in this area, but is that I wasn't doing housework for 6 weeks. That's what I tell my clients. And, I had obviously those conversations with my partner, and he understands obviously my profession and understands what the body has been through, because he was in awe. And so he was amazing, and he did so much. And you really need to have those conversations, prior to birth, to be like, this is the setup. And it might not be your partner, you might have, your mum coming in or whatever, but I really did prioritize my healing and my recovery. And I still had heaviness, I still went through that. Wow, my body has been through so much. I'm constantly reminded of what I have to do to recover here. And I just think, that again, looking at it from a point of view of, if you feel great, I often say to women, it doesn't just mean that you should do it, even if you feel like you can. I think it's just important to honor the stage you're in, honor your body, what it's been through. It's not purely just the birth, it's that dramatic hormone shift that happens postpartum as well, that impacts. Is just, I just couldn't believe how much it impacted my body. It just really, that feeling of being deconditioned. I mean, obviously you're sitting a lot, breastfeeding, and there's you're obviously a lot more sedentary than normal. But when you get, that real hormone shift, it does really impact your muscles. So we can't be expecting ourselves to, be doing everything that we did beforehand. It's just, it's not realistic. You'll get back to it, but let's get back to it in a, I guess a gradual and a safe way.
Yeah, and a compassionate and understanding way, just as we would for our children, not like the stupid way, like me, that was back teaching yoga at 3 weeks. Anywho, bad move. But I wonder if it's also that estrogen drop that's also affecting the musculature as well, and that feeling of being deconditioned as well.
There's no doubt.
Because I'm going through that, darling, and I'm telling you. Estrogen receptors exist within every organ and every bodily function that we have. And it just as an aside, perimenopause is such a horrific ride of progesterone and estrogen dropping, which is like, day 3 for you guys when your milk comes in, but we don't get the prolactin. But it's just so important to, again, when symptoms are there, you deal with them. And if a medical practitioner doesn't understand them, which is very common in perimenopause, because estrogen impacts every single system, it means we have such a variety of experiences which just don't fit into the sort of Western model of like, how do we label this? It's not a duck. It doesn't look like a duck, but it is a duck. And so I just think it is really important, like you say, to take care and to understand these expressions in the body. And I love that idea of bringing into your postpartum planning conversations. I always talk about, can we afford a cleaner if there's no family around? So, I love that, talking to your partner, and so that they understand the why is a real important thing. And we didn't talk about diastasis, but obviously you can help. And I mean that, and people going back to exercise too soon is a not good idea for abdominal separation as well, right?
Yeah, correct. So that's the other thing we do in that 6-week assessment as well, postnatally, is assessed for abdominal separation, which is, diastasis. So, and then working on exercises and rehabilitation for that. So I followed my own, which was, very handy, having my own program. I have the
you've got your own
academy.
online courses to do.
Yeah. So that was really, I'll tell you what, it's very weird when you're following an exercise video and it's yourself.
It's too weird, right? It's awful.
Yeah, it's so weird. But it was so good because I didn't have to think about what exercises to do. I was just like, okay. And, obviously I know what I was going to, what the exercises, roundabout were. So it was just a great process, I guess, starting from week, I think I started week 2 postnatally. I sort of say, around that time when you're feeling ready within your body, just really gentle strengthening and stretching and getting the body moving, but getting it, moving on the mat safely and gently, and being really gradual about it. So that, the program obviously goes through the exercises for that and gradually challenges you more. I think that's really key, because when you're talking about abdominal separation and the pelvic floor recovery, there is a lot of women out there who are either getting back into perhaps exercises, it might be like doing a plank or something like that their body simply isn't ready to do, and they haven't rebuilt from that inside out. There's a lot of, I guess, exercises in the lead up to more challenging and advanced abdominal exercises that we need to be doing, and really focusing on the foundations. So that's what's really key in those early weeks, and then, like I said, progressing yourself gradually, but having guidance to do that, and not just going out and going to any class, or, like I said, going for a run or things like that is really key, because it can unfortunately lead to dysfunction of some kind, and that can be post-vaginal or cesarean delivery. So it is really key to have that, I guess, guidance throughout your rehabilitation.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of multiple stories, but I won't share them all. Okay, one story. Just a mum, I think she's a famous TV presenter actually, and she was sharing the fact that, she just assumed everything was fine after birth, and of course she hadn't done physiotherapy or anything like that. And she had a massive prolapse, I think, like 6 months after her child was born, jumping on a trampoline, but hadn't done any rehabilitative work whatsoever or been assessed whatsoever. But then a very dramatic prolapse at that time. And like you say, if you haven't done that careful awareness and that work from the inside out to knit things back together, you can be at risk of that happening for sure.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
And do you give mums pessaries? Are they common?
They are, yeah. So, look, I find a lot of women don't sort of love the idea. So pessary is a silicone device that's inserted to support the organ and support it in its place, or higher than it is situated for prolapse, and it can help obviously remove the symptoms, and it can be a fantastic way for women who have perhaps tried those other strategies that we teach, and perhaps are ready to move on to something that is obviously a device. So they can be really incredible and help mums return to what exercise they want to do, especially high impact exercise, and not be symptomatic. So yeah, absolutely, they
it can be a bridge as well, right? To just give relief and help that sort of rewiring as well, as long as you're doing all the other exercises. It's like a nipple shield, unless you really need it. Don't want to use it all the time, but bit of silicone here and there, sometimes very helpful.
Yeah, and like you say, it's not just you have it and then you forget about all your other management strategies. But I've helped quite a lot of women like wean off their using their pessary, because that's been their goal. They haven't liked the thought of it, and a lot of women don't, and they perhaps want to live life without it, and it's very doable. It's rehabilitation isn't linear. There's ups and the downs, and I always say this with clients, and in particular, with something like prolapse, it can be, you might have a day where you've had to lift a sick toddler, or you've had a bout of bad constipation, and it's flared it up. And it's just really important that we, and obviously we're human, but it's really important we don't sort of catastrophize and be like, oh my God, I'm back to square one. And, it's recovery can be up and down, but it does become, more, plateau, and it does start to, your muscles and your, like you're discussing, that brain muscle connection as well, that does get better and improve over time. And so it really is something that I guess we need to just be mindful of, that if there is something that flares it up, I often say to my clients, just, sit back and just think, what were the things that were different, and what were they? And, or as you were saying before, is it around the time of your cycle, and is there a hormonal link, for example? And, often there is something that has triggered it, and it's just about going, okay, getting back onto my, rehabilitation, my exercises, because often when we feel good, they go out the window. So it's kind of, about bringing them back in, and then, getting back on the bandwagon, and everything starts to settle down again. So, recovery and often isn't a linear process, but certainly, yeah.
It is. I always think of that. I think of it in terms of a spiral, but I like when I go to my Pilates studio in Sydney and the Cairo, they've got that up and down graph, but it's always moving upwards. There is always growth, but it goes up and down that line, in a trajectory from bottom left to top right, kind of across the page. I think that's just one step forward, one to the side, 2 step forward, 1 back. It sort of does travel like that. The body isn't linear, and birth teaches us that. It's a feminine process. It's not linear at all. Life can unfold, as you know, like labor can slow down very late if it wants to. She can do whatever she wants. She's just doing us, She's doing
absolutely. Everything. And every birth is so different, and every body, every way in which a body will feel something as well can be different. Someone might feel something a symptom different to the next person, for example. It's just, it is really important to, I guess, know that you're definitely not alone in what you're going through, but certainly it can be, it is individualized, and it can be different as well. So it's a wild thing, isn't it?
It's a wild ride. Okay, one final question about all technicalities, because I really want to cover it, is that abdominal separation. Like if someone's got a 2 or 3 finger separation, it happens in pregnancy, can you get it back together? And is there an issue in it not coming back together?
Yeah, sure. So what's important to understand is the muscles are never going to be connected completely. There's always going to be a gap because we have connective tissue there. That's called the linea alba. So that is not what we're achieving. So just less than 2 of my fingers is classified as like normal postpartum for abdominal separation. So that obviously depending on someone's fingers, but around about 2 of women's fingers would be around normal. So if it's more than that, yes, it is classified as separation, but definitely it can be rehabilitated. The muscles can move closer together to be, obviously classified as normal. And what's important as well is that we're achieving helping the symptoms and the signs that the woman's experiencing. So, for example, there may be a correlation with back pain, and we're working on strengthening that core to help with that. And obviously, a lot of the time, it's also aesthetic as well. So women don't, like the look of their stomach with abdominal separation potentially. So again, holistic approach to that, but it's absolutely achievable to have that. Don't obviously term it closure because that's not what we're doing, but to rehabilitate abdominal separation to feel and look strong again. If it was more of a severe separation of sort of more 5, fingers, you can certainly get improvement on it, but it's unlikely to go back to what it was. And often when it's really
beautiful mums is a yoga teacher. She had a very big one, I think, after her 3rd, and actually had surgery.
Yeah,
to bring it back together.
So exactly. So you can have a abdominoplasty, which is a surgery to knit the muscles back together, and they often do a tummy tuck because with the process, obviously, there's a lot of excess skin as well. So that can happen for mums that have tried conservative management, but the abdominal separation at diastasis is too large. And again, it depends on what you were saying. If you don't do anything about it, that just depends on the person. So, there are women who it doesn't bother them. They might have a large abdominal separation and they don't have symptoms surrounding that. But, as women, it's quite, it's pretty uncommon not for it to worry women. I find that's, the look of it, and also, I guess, the mechanisms behind it in the sense of just having the strength. A lot of women, obviously we're looking after children. We want to have strength. So
we're picking up a ton a week. Like as one child, you're crazy. Picking up a ton of weight a week.
Yeah, it's full on. And getting back into the exercise, they want to get back into as well, feeling strong. So often those are sort of the driving factors for rehabilitation. So if the person doesn't want to do anything about it, they obviously don't they don't have to, but absolutely rehabilitation is possible. So I have women going, oh, I haven't, my baby's 3 now. Have I left it too late? And, the answer is no. You can absolutely strengthen now. It's just about doing it in the right way and doing appropriate abdominal exercises for you, so you can generate that tension in your linea alba, and you can have those muscles moving together, not just being strained constantly. And that's where that individual assessment comes into it as well.
Yeah, beautiful. Wow, I feel like I am a women's health physio now after all.
Hilarious. Get working
we've
tomorrow.
Covered so much and so much juicy stuff that I think is so critical for every woman and partner to hear and to understand and to honor, like this very beautiful and sacred, stretchy and rehabilitative and strong part of our body. Like this pelvic bowl is like holding us up all the time.
Absolutely.
She's
my mind
amazing.
is blown. Having experienced it, obviously I've seen it, time and time again with my clients, but now having experienced it, what my body has been through in the pregnancy, birth, and now recovery, I am absolutely in awe of the female body. It just, it is incredible.
It is. And if you give it a bit of attention, it's even more incredible.
Goes a long way. Yeah.
She's mind-blowing. She's mind-blowing. Well, is there anything else you feel like we should share with any of the families out there who are pregnant or postpartum?
I think we've covered a lot. I think we've covered, the most important points. But, I guess just also from the general exercise point of view, how important that is. I know, obviously, you with yoga, and I'm a big advocate of that as well. And I love Pilates for strengthening as well. I think, to head into birth, not just prioritizing obviously our pelvic floor health, but our general health, our general muscle health is so important, because birth can be the biggest marathon of your life, but then we are like you said, looking after a baby that continues to grow and get heavier. So, being as strong as possible, and really prioritizing that your general health as well, I just think's really key. Yeah.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Anna, for
My
being
pleasure.
on the show. And really appreciate sharing all your wisdom and softening the stats so that we understand them so much better.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. I've loved it.
Great. I'm Nadine Richardson, and you've been listening to the She Births podcast. If you've enjoyed today, please help us keep this podcast going by subscribing, reviewing, and sharing with a friend. Don't forget to check out our catalogue of previous pods and, of course, our unique programs and services. You can find me and my team at shebirths.com, our community of families and birth workers on Instagram and Facebook. She Births is 2 words and plural. Remember, when it comes to having a beautiful birth and beginning motherhood, your She Births education is your empowerment.